Chair Rudolph, we're ready when you are.
At this time, I'd like to call the Public Arts Commission meeting to order for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Mujica.
Aye.
Commissioner Travis.
Here.
Commissioner Herrera.
Present.
Vice Chair Liebelt.
Here.
Chair Rudolph.
Here. Are there any items on the agenda that need to be pulled or continued to a future meeting?
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. Please state your name and residence for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak?
Chair Rudolph, I did not receive any requests to speak forms, and we currently have no attendees in the meeting.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the approval of the May 14th, 2024 meeting minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak on any of the items?
Chair, I did not receive any requests to speak forms on this item either.
Do we have any comments from the commission? Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Do we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes as they are.
And I second.
Oh,
Is there something showing on your screen?
yeah?
Waiting, waiting, waiting.
Just waiting. All right, let's try a new one. So- Okay, technical difficulties. We have a motion by Vice Chair Liebelt and a second by Commissioner Travis. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Commissioner Mojica.
Aye.
Commissioner Travis.
Aye.
Commissioner Herrera.
Aye.
Vice Chair Liebelt.
Aye.
Chair Rudolph.
Aye.
Motion carries all ayes.
Next, we move on to the agenda for the meeting. The first thing on the agenda tonight is a recap of the city's spring 2024 special events. May we have the presentation, please?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be with you. There's a kind of a humming noise around here, so hopefully
Let
it's
me work on that.
okay. Hopefully we're not overheating the computer. Just wanted to give a spring recap of some of our events. This won't include everything that the city was a part of. Obviously, we sponsor events throughout the year that aren't city-run and organized, so we've done a lot of work on that front too. But the ones that are really out of my department as far as being able to produce, I wanted to be able to highlight that. Gave a similar presentation to the Parks and Community Events Commission and City Council, and so I had 1 month delay meeting with you all, but I want to start being a regular appearance at these meetings and making sure that you are all in the loop about what we have going on. And I wanted to make sure that you recognized Adam Chastain, new member of our Communications and Events Department. He started about a month ago, a little less, as our Events and Recreation Coordinator coming over from our Public Works Department. So it's a good internal success story, and Adam's already hit the ground running, and I'm really, really excited to have him on board as we move forward. So just give a quick recap. This is really just in chronological order of the dates, but the yoga and the amphitheater program was a huge success this past year. We had another year of record attendance that I think piggybacked on a year of record attendance in 2023. So that is led by PACE is obviously sponsoring the program. Vice Chair Antonia Beishu of that particular commission and former PACE Commissioner Gary Marshall are weekly volunteers at that, obviously supported by our department as well. Gentle Yoga runs at 8:30, Power Yoga at 10, so you've got kind of a build for all skill levels. If you want something a little bit easier, if you want something a little bit more intense. Classes ran from January through March. We did receive some questions about, is there a thought or idea of extending the program into April? It's just so hit or miss. I don't know if we'll ever get the April we had this past year. I mean, it was beautiful. Taste and Sounds benefited from it too. We hope that cooler weather continues, but what we've noticed when we did extend it into April in years past, it's just the attendance really plummeted. And then, if you're doing the event for 15 to 20 attendees versus 150 when it's in prime season, we just want to make sure we get the most out of the resources that are put in for the program. But I think if it hasn't already, it should should be on a PACE agenda soon for a 2025 renewal, and we hope to have that back in the community amphitheater again next year. And then Taste of Jalisco, I wanted to give a quick recap there. So obviously celebrates our sister city relationship with Tequila Jalisco, Mexico. Had strong attendance in 2024. 2023 was about 12,000 plus, was a little down, but we did have really bad weather in 2024. So I was happy that we got what we did with the weather that we did kind of encounter there. The 3-day carnival, the biggest carnival we've ever had in the event's history. The festival lawn had a number of food options. Lucha Libre wrestling was a big hit. In the amphitheater, we had popular tribute bands. Dreaming of You, Selena, in particular, was my personal favorite, and I think has been a hit every year that we've had them as part of the event. Things that we're taking into account for 2025. So Sound Skills was recently approved in May for a 1-year extension of this particular event. We will be going to an RFP in the fall for all of our 2026 events. I think the turnaround time, we were a little worried that if you had less than 12 months and you're taking over a new event, let's give them 16 to 18 months to really, if they want to revamp the website, if there's marketing that needs to be done. These events just don't happen overnight. So with the timeline kind of shrunk, they've done a great job putting on this event by all accounts and have council support and approval. So we'll have a 1-year extension with Sound Skills for this upcoming year, and then in 2026 it'll be up for RFP. That RFP will be going out this fall. So right around Labor Day, I think that first week of September, I hope to have the request for proposal for renewals for all of our events that have expiring contracts. The Mary Nutter Collegiate Classic, this is a really popular event, 33,000 attendees. It's been increasing every year. I know the Parks and Community Events Commission had a component there, the information booth where we handed out kind of local restaurant menus, which was a really good value add to the event. You know, I think we've had a presence there in the past, but I think it was definitely much more robust this year. And I know commissioners from multiple organizations within the city kind of rotated duty there to be able to help with our information booth. The mayor and council participated in the opening pitch ceremony, and then our city also provides the teams and guests with branded swag bags that we use through our environmental fund with Deanna Pressgrove. So that's been a really good component of this too, but obviously highlighting Big League Dreams, one of our signature venues here in Cathedral City. We are excited to support them again in 2025. Cathedral City LGBT Days, recap of that. It's California's first Pride of the Year, which is great branding opportunity for us here as a city. March 8th through the 10th of 2024 was this past year. It'll be March 7th through the 9th, 2025, so same date range this year. The 2024 event saw record attendance for the Sunday bed races. We also saw that in 2023. So the bed races on the Sunday component have been really, really popular. Obviously, I think for the last decade, that's been kind of a staying power for this event. But what do we do Friday and Saturday to maybe elevate the rest of the event and make sure it feels a little bit fuller in its components? As we kind of diagnose and kind of figure out where this event is headed moving forward, we will actually be taking this as a city event for the current year for 2025. We'll probably bring in an event organizer to help on a modest basis, nothing like Sound Skills and what they produce as a third-party vendor. But we think that this is a year that we can get this kind of to be able to not rehabbed, but I think could be elevated even more to give a clean slate to a new vendor that would come in that RFP process. Don't know who that will be, but I think it'll be really good to have it in the city's hands to kind of polish a few things. We are going to add the plus to LGBT Days, so it'll be LGBT plus days, just to add a little bit more inclusivity and celebration. We are open to that being revamped and enhanced even more for a new vendor coming in, but we didn't want to kind of steal that thunder too. So, but I think ways that we can do more to be a little bit more inclusive and celebratory. River Butcher, trans comedian, was our headline performer at the Agua Caliente Casino this year. So making sure that we have representation in what is really a very strong and prominent and vibrant LGBTQ plus community here in Cathedral City. We were really also happy with Agua Caliente Casinos, which we've submitted a renewal for our proposal there. That was the first time they had sponsored this type of event. So we were really happy to have them on board there. And then the drone light shows continue to get better. We start programming it with music, and I had kind of a front row seat this year. I was kind of the police barricade vehicle, making sure nobody got into the launch site this year. So it was a really, really beautiful ceremony, and we're excited to celebrate the community even more in 2025. Taste and Sounds was a real, we didn't know what to expect, really, frankly. It was a real surprise on how successful, and I think the reception from the community was really mostly immediate. I think it took a couple of weeks to get going, and then once the weather hit, it was really, really a huge success. So it allowed us to explore a lot of different things with our amphitheater. We did a BYOB pilot program as part of Taste and Sounds, working with our police department. That actually ended up working out really well. I think this group in particular, we would be lucky if we had 1 or 2 pieces of trash after each event. I mean, they did a really great job of being respectful of the venue. I know I saw many of you out there throughout the 8-week run. I appreciate the support. Gave us a chance to celebrate our local restaurants, which we got involved more than I thought we were going to initially. When we kind of first approached restaurants with this concept, I think it's hard for them to be able to move out of a restaurant on a Tuesday night. They're taking the gamble of, do we close our restaurant and hope we make money off of your event? As a first-time event, it's harder to build trust there because they don't know what you have to provide. So we'll continue to foster that, but we did have 4 out of the 8 were Cathedral City based. Smoky Lips Barbecue, Taqueria Copacabana, who went through our vendor certification program with code compliance. So this is only going to continue to give more, I think, juice and fuel to our local small business community here, and particularly in the restaurant side. So we hope to be able to partner with even more. I think as the attendance continues to increase, we received some questions. What about more than one food vendor? I think in a first year, you really want to take the conservative approach as far as, not bringing in too many components, because then it just gets distracting. And it's like, well, you don't even have the audience built to sustain this. But, with 700 plus attendees at the Dreamboats, we were well over 1,000 for the entire series run. I think on average about 350 to 400. We're really, really excited about the momentum and having more weekly free opportunities for folks to be able to enjoy the amphitheater and be able to enjoy the diversity that we have culturally, as well as with our music talent. I think we had a lot of good range of different music too. Also was happy that we had a good opportunity to highlight the high school students and give them an opportunity to experience the night on a big stage like that too. So we'll probably play with the times a little bit more, maybe go 5:30 to 7:30 instead of 5 to 7, just to avoid, particularly as the later months later weeks get in there, it gets really, really hot. We fortunately only had that for one, I think, this year. Giselle Wu's event, I think, was starting to get a little toasty, but she did a great show, and having a Cathedral City own talent like that to come back home and perform was a real treat to see. It was the first time I had gotten a chance to see her as well. So I think Taste and Sounds, and then you pair that with the amphitheater yoga, and it was really cool on a Tuesday to have the morning start with the yoga program and then end with Taste and Sounds in the evening. And I go back a little bit to, obviously don't highlight this for my flattering appearance in the Lucha Libre outfit that Antonio made me get in for the yoga program. But I think what was really cool about that is there was so much cross-promotion components between the two events that I saw so many yoga goers end up at Taste and Sounds too, which was a really cool thing. So looking forward to more ways we can kind of brand and enhance all of that. But for your information, plan to go to council in July. We've received some interest and feedback potentially for some community assistance funds to do a fall Taste and Sound series. It would be a 6-week abbreviated series. We've just got too much going on in the fall to do an 8-week series on top of a 10th anniversary balloon festival and everything that we have there. And then there's also been a proposal, I believe Councilmember Lamb is interested in potentially doing movies in the park. So we would do that in the amphitheater as well with an inflatable screen. Shauna McGloin from Jacob's Way Productions, who's done a lot of our local events, including Fields of Valor, and did she help with the 22K veterans?
Yes.
Yes, and so she's got a very cost-effective program to be able to provide that. So I'll get feedback on that from council in July. But my biggest goal is to continue to have more free, affordable activities that we can do in the amphitheater. Taste of Jalisco is another one that we're taking under kind of strong consideration. Feedback feedback that I've received from you all as commissioners, from myself and my own wallet, going to pay for food, it can get pretty cost prohibitive. And so how can we maybe bring in more local to supplement that, at least have some tiered price structures that can be able to fit a family of four, regardless of socioeconomic situations. So we do have a working class kind of component here in Cathedral City, a blue collar component. We want to make sure that we celebrate that and not try to gouge too much when it comes to the prices. The food truck business would tell you that things are getting more expensive on their end too. I'm obviously sympathetic to that side, but we do need to be a little bit, when it's getting into the $25 to $40 range just for, a thing of nachos, it's getting a little out of hand. So we're monitoring that and seeing ways that we can do a little bit more cost effective on the food side. So, but with that, that's just kind of a general overview of spring. We're excited to have Adam on board. I'm happy to be with you all this evening and here to answer any questions that you have.
Great. Anyone in the commission like to speak?
Just thank you for putting all of that together, and really appreciate you prioritizing the free access to these events. And I will say I had a chance to attend a few events here and then a few events farther down in the valley in Palm Desert. I guess they're equivalent of the concert series, and I think a couple of things stood out to me as being done really well in Cathedral City. One of them is the BYOB component. I think that that encourages definitely like more participation, or being able to bring things that are affordable to your family with you.
Absolutely.
Is huge. And then I think just the actual setup encourages like the audience participation and dancing and that kind of thing. And some of the other venues that I've seen, the way that they're set up, folks want to be more involved in the performance, and it doesn't necessarily facilitate that. So I commend Cathedral City for putting that together in that way.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Any public comments at this time?
Chair, I did not receive any request to speak forms, and we currently have no members of the public in the meeting.
Great.
Chair, just one more comment for Ryan. Is there anything exciting coming up for Balloon Fest this year that you might want to mention?
Yeah, so Leanne Rhymes will be our headline performer for the Balloon Festival. Either this week or next week, we should have an announcement related to ticket sales online. And then we're waiting on a sponsorship agreement to be approved, but we're very confident that it'll be renewed with somebody who will be able to help us distribute the free tickets to Cathedral City residents. So we plan to have an 1,000 ticket allotment for Cathedral City residents, as long as they show their ID, utility bill. We'll have a pickup location that will help us not only from a staff resources standpoint, but it'll really, I think, give an opportunity to highlight this particular venue, being a little vague, sorry. But it'll all come together, but we're really, really excited about having that component, being able to still provide some free ticketing component to Cathedral City residents. And then the on-sale ticketing will be on sale this month through discovercathedralcity.com.
And so what's the total, like the 1,000 are going to be given away? What's the total capacity?
Yeah, it's about 3,000.
It's about 3,000,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. About 2,000 for sale, 1,000 free.
Keep up the tremendous work, Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we move to the second item on the agenda tonight, which is a recap of the first quarterly arts exhibit. May we have the staff report, please?
Chair, there is no staff report on this item, but I would like to turn it over to Commissioner Travis, who led that initiative, to give an update.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, the good news is that I stayed within budget, so that's the good news, right?
Free, stayed in budget of zero.
That's always good.
Not even $1.
Not even $1, right? But it went really, really well. All the artists came in on Thursday and installed their art, and we're ready for the show on Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, we had 80 people who visited, and then on Sunday, we had 65. It was a shorter day, and so that was pretty good. And so 145 visitors altogether. Right now, afterwards, Kristen, who's the librarian, invited the artists who wanted to take one of their pieces and put it in the library, and so they're advertising for August by doing that too. And so that's kind of fun, and so we have that going on. And so I think it went really well. I had 9 artists. In August, I have 10, and then I have 2 or 3 backups, so in case anybody falls out. And the artists are pretty amazing. You guys, I know that Tom and Craig came, and I think you could vouch for that, yeah. that we had a good variety of great photographers, and then we have a couple of new people. I know Anne's interested in August. There's a special artist there that she's interested in. So it went really well. It was fun. Also, I was able to go to the Thursday before. I went to the Artist Council's opening at the Galen, and I took the things that Anne and Christina made for us with QR codes and to advertise the benches, and I know that you did too. Okay. And then we also, I had them there at the art show, and so then I also got about maybe 40 names of people somewhere, and I had them pick whether they are artist or patron, so we're trying to get a little database together, and so hopefully it will build up.
One of the things that Christina and one of her colleagues has been doing is all of the submittals that have been coming in through the call for artists are at least being put into a spreadsheet so that we have that available for when we need to do other calls for artists. We're sort of building that contact list.
Right. But thank you all, and thanks for supporting it. And I think that the local artists have really enjoyed it. I met so many artists. It was I met a young girl who was at the College of the Desert, and she's getting ready to transfer to Fullerton, and she brought her portfolio in. And so myself and some other artists looked at it and encouraged her, and then, so she was very excited. So it was. I think that it's a great way for people to realize that art lives here in the city.
That sounds awesome. I have a couple quick questions.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
I have a couple questions. From the folks that attended, did they say how they found out about the shows? Like if they had seen it advertised somewhere? I'm just curious what outreach worked.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that I volunteer at the senior center, so I kind of know that, and I put flyers over there. So there was a big group of people there from the senior center, and then I think there were a couple of artists who actually were involved in the senior center were there, so that helped draw a lot of people there. People did see our flyers. I had it at the grocery outlet, and it was at the new Denny's on Vistachino and all different. So I think it really helped out with, and they're keeping them up through November because it's good for the whole time. They also, what was it there? It was word of mouth. They had friends that called them too, and then the library also handed out flyers.
But didn't you also post it on Facebook?
Yeah, multiple times.
Several of us then reposted on Facebook.
Yeah.
Ryan put it on the city's Facebook page, and Discover Cathedral City did, I think, one or possibly two stories about it, one for the call for artists, and then I think there was a reminder about it.
Right. Yeah, they did a great job. Ryan's team did that really well. So I think it went really well, and I'm looking forward to the next two.
Sounds awesome.
Right.
Any other comments from the commission? Good job, Rick.
Yep, you did a great job. It looked great. It was fun. And it was fun interacting with all the artists there that day, too.
Yeah.
And they sold some pieces.
Yeah.
I
So
forgot that.
That's
that
important,
effective part of it did happen. I know several people sold some pricey pieces and then Patty in that corner there, they sold dozens of things, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it was good. Are there any public comments?
Chair Rudolph, we did not receive any request to speak forms.
Okay, great.
Just a question for the commissioner. Do you need any additional artists, or are you set for the remaining?
I'm set through November. Then I was figuring, and then in January I'll do a new call for artists and start all over again.
And so, Rick, I'm sorry, one more question, too. Are the same artists, there are 3 different shows, are there going to be the same artists in each show, or there'll be completely different artists in each show, or a combo of that?
Combo. It's a combo, yeah.
Okay.
Some people, we had them sign up for whatever show they wanted, and so some people signed up for all 3, and then some signed up for just 1 or 2. Okay. So they're rotating around, yeah. But I think it's going to be good, even for those who, if you did all 3 and you're smart and did that, that's going to get you established in the city because they'll see you 3 times, and then they'll get to know you, who you are. So that's great. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is to discuss and recommend criteria for approval of the Public Arts Commission grant. We probably have a staff report on this.
We do.
Very good.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. So at your last meeting, the Public Arts Commission grant was introduced, and a draft of the council's current process for their community grants program was provided to you, just as a starting point for the discussion of, with this new grant program, what criteria do you think would be important to put in place for individuals applying for these funds? As you know, we have an allocation of general fund dollars in the amount of $20,000 as a total amount that's available for grants. And so my desire with you tonight is to have a further discussion about what the criteria are, and hopefully come to some direction from the commission on what you think is the salient points of that, and then determine if you would like to look at limits for the amount of funding that would be available. So do you want to do, $500 to $1,000, $500, $1,000 to $5,000 grants and have, set amount, or how you would like to propose looking at that funding? Because you could easily see somebody that would come in and say, I want, $20,000, or is it more desirable to have smaller grants that would be available to more participants, or maybe, 5 for $5,000 each? So if you could have some discussion about that. The desire is to have this discussion with you, get some direction, and then be able to bring this to the City Council at the July 24th meeting so that we can get that process approved by them, and that we could then get the application out on the streets so that applicants would have an opportunity to apply for the funding, because the activities that they're going to do will need to be completed within the fiscal year. And so we would like to be able to give them as much opportunity to put together whatever programming that they're going to do during the course of the fiscal year, which will be July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. So that is my hope. In your packet was, again, a copy of the council application. And then I also did another draft kind of version that I think put a little bit more meat on the bones of what the potential hope for the program was. I've included language from the ordinance about what the current ordinance defines as art, in the broadest sense, and put in some draft eligibility requirements, again, just as a starting point for the discussion with the commission. So in your packet, if you click on the item and look at the three, you'll be able to see the different forms that are there, and would just like to kind of open it up for your discussion about criteria. How many grants do you wish to award? Do you want to have limits to the amount people can ask for, et cetera? So that is my staff report, and then I'd just like to turn it over to you, Chair, and the Commission for discussion.
Great. Well, one of the concerns that I think we had, if I remember correctly, when we talked about this previously, was, are we just going to limit this to sort of nonprofit organized groups, or are we going to open it to the general public that can also take advantage of these grant programs? As you know, with the arts, there is a large nonprofit sector that works within our city and within the valley, but there's also a lot of people who are either independents or smaller groups. Say they may be a band, or or a dance troupe that is not organized underneath the guise of some type of formal organization. So I think that was, at least I remember, that was one of the things that we talked about and worried about. Are we going to just limit this to, say, a situation?
And you do not have to. The City Council funds, what they do is geared towards nonprofits. Being that this is really a different focus, you can give funding to individuals, to organizations, whether they're for-profit or nonprofit, other governmental entities. So if a school district applied for funding, that they would be eligible. I think you have the opportunity to keep that criteria broad. As long as somebody is able to submit a W-9, they can receive funding from the city. So they do not have to be a formal organization, so that it wouldn't prohibit, if I'm an artist and wanted to do a temporary installation of something somewhere, that I wouldn't be prohibited from applying for this funding.
So hopefully we'll be able to glean a lot of information out of this application, whereas with a normal organized group, we could either go onto their website or see the work that they have done. But if there's somebody off the street, we just want to make sure that the monies are going to a responsible party. I think we all agree about that.
I think it's a great opportunity because while we're doing it, we'll be able to be in that mode to vet things. Like once they apply, we can do all that research on looking them up and make sure that they are who they say they are, and also learn more about them. And I think that will be easier than trying to do it randomly. So I think it's going to be nice to have that, and then we'll have all this done for the year. It'll be pretty amazing.
Does anybody on the commission see any specifics that they would either like to add to this application or adapt for our situation?
Anna, were you asking about like the 20,000? Do we have to set specific things? Because I was wondering if it could be fluid. Or, for instance, there might be an opportunity that comes up that we might need like 10, 12, 14, 16,000 for one thing, or less for other events? Or can we say, or does it have to be broken down? Do we need to say $4,000 or $5,000 grants, and maybe they could apply for 2 of those? Or, can you say 10,000 maximum grant and then have 5 $2,000 grants? How do we have?
So I think that's really up to I'd like to get feedback from the commission on that. So as I would look at this, there will be one call for proposals for the grant year. So you would have one call for people wanting to apply for the grant funding for the fiscal year. Since the total is $20,000, you could, if the desire is to spread that out amongst, more than one organization, you could set some limits, or you could just keep it an open call and look at the applications that you receive and decide from those applications whether maybe there's one strong applicant that maybe needs more of the funding, or there's other applicants that receive smaller funding. Or if you decided you wanted to just say, we want to fund 5 projects at $5,000 each. Is that 5? 4. Sorry, a little Dayquil brain. Whatever's the desire of the commission of, is it more desirable to try to get some amount of money for smaller projects to more organizations, or just the council doesn't put a limit on their funding request. I think they just see what happens, and then they make recommendations based on the projects that came through the door. So I think you could handle it either way.
I guess.
I'm sorry, but as a person who used to apply for this type of funding, it's so important for us to kind of have some kind of a guideline for people, because what will happen is people will think they're going to ask for the whole 20, and I wouldn't see us giving the whole 20 out. I would see, it's going to, we have this amount of money, we're looking at doing 5 or 4 or 5 grants. Yeah. And then we could figure it out from there.
The city council's money, they're usually between like $2,000 and $8,000, I think, out of the $70,000 that they have budgeted. So they take that bucket of money and try to spread it out to as many programs as possible.
I guess for me, because I look going forward, if we want to get a little more ambitious and bring any kind of cultural or performance thing, sometimes that's going to take a little bit more money. To bring the caliber, the level that we want to do. And I guess for me, it would still be that we have some flexibility if something were so we could say, 10 grand, for like a maximum. And if we don't get anybody that applies for it that year, right, we can still break that down and do it to other groups. Or we can do so then it's like 2 grand for 5, or you know what I'm saying? So I guess I still want to be able to up that ante if there's something really, truly that unique and wonderful that we could do. I don't want to say,
Yeah. I'm just saying that we need to let them know what our total that we have at 20,000, so they don't ask for 25.
Is that
would eliminate?
Is that something, Ann, that we could set at the beginning of each year, or no?
Your amount is 20,000.
No.
Yeah.
Can we set the guidelines that like each year say we're going to have 10, like 1 10,000 and 5 2,000, or we're going to have 4 2,500s? Can we change that from year to year, or?
I would say that would be a good idea because we'll learn from the first year, like how we felt about it, and we might change our minds.
Not only that, Ann, but is there any, so I know right now, like when we give money or people come and ask, you know, from, we did that jazz series and stuff, and they came and they asked, could this be to where it's not a call, and then when people do come in, we can say, okay, the board does want to go ahead with this, but this is the fund it comes out of? Up to 20,000, or does it have to be like they keep saying, like it is a grant, so we have to give it every year? Like, does it have to go that route?
I think that's what was the council's direction, was to come up with a grant program so that there was kind of the direction that I understood the council is that it would be something similar to what they do with their community grant program. And so, yeah, so if, say, the senior center wanted to do a jazz program, that this would be the opportunity that they would come to the Public Arts Commission and say, you know, we want to request funding for X. And that way, and again, this is going to be a transition year because it's the first time, but hopefully that it would be, okay, at a certain time of the year, the Public Arts Commission is going to do this call for proposals. That way you're also not burdened with it, you know, throughout the course of the year and have somebody come in and say, hey, I want $5,000 for this, and then 2 months later you have like a really great proposal that comes in the door and maybe it exceeds the amount that you have available in the grant program. So I think the desire of the council was to have it be similar to what they're doing, but just with the criteria that made sense for an arts kind of
I mean,
grant.
it would suck to have to say, okay, there's, you know, we don't have enough to cover that, but I mean, I would rather say that we can give X amount, because that's what's in the thing, than say, oh, sorry, you've missed the time.
But I think that's for anybody, especially if you're a nonprofit or you're looking for those opportunities. They have people who are paid to do that, and they're looking for all those, and they want schedules so that they could like go like, oh, I could apply there and see if we get it. If we don't apply,
Every July, there's a call for artists or a call for proposals.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that for the community, it's more helpful to the community, if that's what we're doing, is to help the community, to let them know what's available and they can apply. And once they know, our job will be to advertise it as well as could be so people can apply.
And I think the hope is also that those external organizations that are looking for funding, and granted, this is not a big bucket of funding. It's a, you know, a nominal amount that, you know, obviously isn't going to fund really large projects or events, but that if sort of the external organizations have this opportunity for some funding, then the remaining budget that the commission has, the $10,000 that's allocated for the commission's use, that you have the opportunity to look at other programming that are initiated from the commission, you know, and just using examples that have been talked about in the past. So the art exhibits, if there was a nominal fee for, you know, something related to that, that there would be funding that you would have separate from this grant funding to do those kind of programs, but that the community would start to know that, hey, if we want to look for money from the city, you know, there are these 2 times a year. There's a time when the Public Arts Commission is going to be doing grants, and then if I'm a nonprofit and want to do, you know, that kind of programming, I can apply to the city council for their grant funding.
Now, Commissioner Herrera, I know your heart is really in the right place, and I get exactly what your intent is, to know that there's some flexibility, but just like unless you give people deadlines kind of thing, they're always, you know, going to be coming at us, and we can also table something and, you know, suggest if they missed a deadline, they can do it the next year, the following year, or we can guide them to another source or to the city council.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm just a little confused, because what I got from that meeting was more like, okay, so if people come and they're just like, oh, we want to do a jazz concert, and they come to us, we're able to take money out of this fund.
No, the intention is that they have to apply for a grant to do that.
Okay, and then, so with the other monies that are actually in the account, right?
Discretionary, yeah.
That has to be used for actual art pieces going through the city?
No.
No.
So there's 3 buckets of money.
Okay.
So we have the Art and Public Places Fund, which is the developer fees that are collected that we use to pay for our public art collection. So the art piece that we're going to do for Esperanza Park, the art piece for the Ramon Landau intersection, the murals, that all comes out of that. So that is intended for those more permanent types of art pieces that are going to be put up in the community. Then with this budget, the council created 2 general fund budgets for the use of the Public Arts Commission. One is the $20,000 grant budget, which we're talking about tonight, which is, the discussion being that the Public Art Commission would be able to do a call for proposals for people wanting to apply for a small grant from the Public Arts Commission, or from the city through the Public Arts Commission, and you would be able to award or make recommendations for the award of those funds. And then lastly is the third bucket, which is the $10,000. This is basically the same kind of budget that the PACE Commission has. They have a $10,000 budget that they utilize to do their events. So the cost of the instructors for the yoga classes comes out of their budget. Supplies and materials that they need for the dog costume contest come out of that. Those kind of small programming that they do throughout the year, that budget is utilized for that. So you as a commission can also kind of talk about, if there are projects that you want to initiate. So, and I'm going to use it as an example. So, Chair Rudolph has talked about the talent show. So if you decided you wanted to do a talent show and there were costs related to that, you would be able to use that $10,000 for that. Or if you wanted to host another reading by another author or something, and there was a cost to doing that, you would be able to utilize, recommend the use of your funding for that. Or if there was something else that you wanted to do that you as a commission wanted to sponsor or host, you would have that small budget available to utilize for those kind of activities, just like the PACE Commission.
And like she's saying, though, if somebody came and did a request, but they missed those deadlines, we could use that money for that.
You could consider that. You could consider a sponsorship. I think those would be some discussions that you could have, and recognizing that those all still go to the council for final approval.
Or always, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I think the desire is to, again, I think create that time, that here's, if you want to, as an outside community organization that wants to come to the city and solicit funds, that there's certain times of the year that those are going to be available.
And I also kind of like the timeline because it gives us a chance to plan and program for the year. If they're coming and asking for specific grants, we can kind of coordinate the type of events and when and where they happen so that we can spread it out throughout the year rather than people just sort of coming randomly, and yet we still have discretionary funds to do that too. But at least we have a general idea of we can plan our year.
Well, and you can look at, just mimicking what the city council does. So they've gone through their process, and I believe it's at this upcoming agenda for June that they're going to make their award of those grants. And so then that gives the participants that got that money the full fiscal year to spend that money. And so it could be that if we go forward with your grant program, and we'll start a little bit late this year just because of the timing of it, we could look in the following year to, before the fiscal year ends, put out that call, get people ready so that they're eligible to start spending July 1, and then they have the full fiscal year to be able to plan and prepare and execute whatever the activity is that they're planning to do.
A quick question.
Yes.
So is the expectation the funds are expended within that fiscal year and the activity also takes place
Yes.
during that time? So
Yeah.
Okay.
Because each year we'll have a new allocation, and we generally don't carry funds forward, and we try to kind of button those things up within one year.
But sorry. Or, I was just going to say, for programming purposes, would it be okay if an applicant has a project that is a multi-year project or something like that, where it doesn't necessarily end within that fiscal year, carried as beyond, but they need it for maybe that immediate year's operation? So how would they,
The way that the funds are currently allocated is there's an allocation for each fiscal year. So I would think that, and especially for this nominal amount of a total of $20,000, that we would be looking at complete expenditure within the fiscal year. So I'm looking at.
One of the things possibly could be if we did a call twice a year? Do 10,000 and 10,000, do 5 at 2,000 each? And that way, if you miss one, you can be oh, well, there's another one coming up at Because I would hate.
Or, Ann, didn't you say, was this once a year that they would have to apply? There's a deadline once a year, or did you say it was twice a year?
It's not been developed yet, so we're seeking input from the commission on that. The city council does it once a year. And again, part of that is the work that requires to review the applications. So for you as a commission, you will need to review the applications, whether you're doing that as a full body or as a subcommittee. Then if you do it as a subcommittee, then that subcommittee is going to need to make recommendations to you as a full commission, and then those recommendations will have to go to council. So you also, I think, have to factor in what is your time commitment to reviewing applications, whether once or twice a year, and then that also going to the council for approval, and having the ability to do that project within the fiscal year. So if you do it mid-fiscal year, say you did it like at the beginning of the year and mid-year, then that group that will be in the second round of funding will only have 6 months to complete their project. So that would be the only, I think, limiting factor that could be a problem, just depending on what, that if you were in the first round of funding, you would have a full year, 12 months. If you're in the second round of funding, you'd only have 6 months.
And it'd probably be less than that by the time it gets to council after we release it.
Yeah, we would have to be very diligent about what the timing was, and I think if you were doing it twice a year, you would be having kind of overlaps of those call processes.
Maybe we can do it, if we wanted to do a second one, do it in December, have a December deadline, and we could talk about it at the December meeting so that when it goes to the first meeting in January, at least they'd get the full 6 months. Perhaps.
I think that that might work for the first one, but as it goes along, it'd be better just to have it ready for the fiscal year, allowing the people to expend it whatever time, as long as it's before the end of that fiscal year. And then that gives them all the latitude that they can do. I mean, they're thinking ahead. If most of the organizations are thinking ahead, so if they're thinking they want to do something in March, they can apply for it in summer.
Well, and looking at this year's, and I'm not sure exactly when the city launched this. Their application deadline was April of this year. But this will, again, if the commission provides direction today, it will be on the July 24th council meeting. And so given whatever period of time we allow for applications to be submitted, we're looking at probably sometime into August or early September that we would receive applications, then have to get on to the next commission meeting to solicit your feedback and review of those applications. So we're already going to be kind of at mid-year for this first round of funding. So I think it might be better for this first year to do it as one application, try to get, again, just understanding that it's going to be an abbreviated period for the applicants to come up with and provide, execute on their projects, and then start the process earlier for the following year so that we have everything completed with the submittals before June 30th, and so that they can launch July 1.
That makes sense.
That would be my recommendation, just to get through this transition year.
Years, if you find that people are coming in a little bit late, or want something different. But for this pilot program, it might be smart just to do one call.
Well, and I guess the other thing too is if there's a bigger amount of funding that's needed, if you split it in two, then you wouldn't be able to, access that. And I still feel like, having worked in the art world for so many years, a lot of things are done, there's just deadlines. And because we always know there's always something. And the fact that we still have that other discretionary money, so anything, we can accommodate that. Anybody that misses that's got a worthwhile thing, that we can still accommodate that. So I wouldn't want a bigger project, to lose out financially because of that too. So it's a catch-22. I kind of like the idea of that 6 months, every 6 months, but I still think people just really have to plan. And then once you know that that's the schedule, that's the deadline. So again, when we apply for this, then the deadline would be this time of year, June. So they need to do it starting in January. Is that the fiscal year from July to July? Misunderstood?
It's July 1st through June 30th is our fiscal year.
Right. So that's why we're missing. Right. We're too close to this one. Correct.
Right, because this is a new program and we're just getting this, the approval of the process in July, so we'll be starting a little bit later. And
So once we get it approved, sorry, so then people could start applying in August?
once it's approved through the, if we tonight come up with the criteria that you desire to see in the application, we'll put that together for the City Council's approval on the July 26th meeting. And I think what I can do is I'll look at the timelines of how long the community grant application period is open. I'm thinking it's probably a few weeks, 3 weeks or so. I can mimic that with your grant application, and then we can launch it. So we can put that out, start advertising. I think all of the community engagement that's been happening around the 2 recent art events sponsored by the commission is also a larger group of entities that, might have ideas or things that they want to do. I don't think we're going to have any problems getting people to submit. And I think what will be interesting is, and this is, I think, some of the feedback that I'm looking for is, do we want to just keep it very broad of what people can apply for? I look at this funding as funding that's for non-permanent kind of things, that we have the Art and Public Places funds, that if we're looking at permanent installations in the city, that we have a funding source to do that. But if somebody wanted to do like a pop-up event, or wanted to do a reading, or wanted to do, a musical event in the park, or you name it, whatever floats their boat, that this small funding could help, I think, enhance the amount of kind of events or experiences that are available outside of the normally scheduled activities. Looking at the ordinance, and so that's why I went back and looked at the ordinance. And so in the draft that I put together, it talked about, art being construed broadly, including art expressed in any medium without limitation. Painting, sculpture, photography, lithography, physical mediums, music, singing, spoken word, auditory mediums, plays, film, dance, and other mediums like literature, poetry, art history, interpretation, clothing, fashions, and other cultural expressions. So I think if you have things that are of a broad sense, then you get to capture the creativity of the community of how they see or have projects that they think would connect with our community. And I think it's part of this. We should ask them, what is the community that you're targeting? Is it age group? Is it something they want to do that targets young people, older people in our community, subsegments of our community? Is it going to be culturally based? Whatever that is, to again help give input to you as a commission that's going to review this and see, can we get a diversity of type of programs that are going to maybe outreach to a variety of components of our community? So we're not just doing all, of one kind of thing, but, that there's art that showcases different mediums, that showcases different outreach to different groups, and that kind of, helps reach out to different components of, are you having troubles?
No. Well, I was just looking, we were both doing this.
Yeah.
I have a question or a couple thoughts.
Please.
So just regarding, so if the timeline, so if this is a once a year opportunity, the plus side of that is once folks know about it, they have the full year to plan and think of multiple sources of funding. And maybe we could support that by saying there are, like on the website or something, you can also apply to these so that we can grant multiple projects, or we can give the funds to multiple projects, even if the amount that they need exceeds what we end up granting, because the way that the grant application is written, it kind of emphasizes sharing what other funding sources they've identified, what partnerships they have that will make this project come to fruition. So I think that's totally fine, and I do think that if folks have one shot a year, the potential of there being maybe one grant or two grants, and then if they miss a deadline, we say, apply next year, but there's only going to be one grant made the next year, that can be really discouraging to community to apply. So I do think that having this be a once a year opportunity makes the cap even more important, so that we can have multiple projects, even if that's just the language saying up to 10,000.
Yeah. So for the city council, and they have a total budget of $70,000 a year, their grant amount minimum is $1,000 and maximum is 10,000. So you could do that. You could do 500 to 5,000. Since you have a smaller amount, you can set whatever amounts you would like to. And if you'd like to do that, I'll take that information and can put that in the draft. But I think that does help. Not let applicants get too hopeful that I'm just going to apply for $20,000 and get it, and then no one else, would have the opportunity.
And I guess I don't know if I quite heard my answer. What is the time frame they have to apply? Like how many weeks or months do they have to apply?
So I think that's to be determined, but I would say probably, I'm going to verify what the city council does with theirs, but probably I would say like 3 weeks or
Only
4
3
weeks.
Okay.
Maybe a month max.
Got to get the word out.
I also think it's going to be really great for transparency too, because once you do that and you have a regular thing, people know like, oh, there's a fund that you can apply for. You may or may not get it, but there's something there and everybody has an opportunity to do that.
But you just said too, I really like the idea of the fluidity of that 1,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was going for, so that there could be like a bigger, I don't know if we have to have a minimum, but definitely like up to 10, you can apply for up to 10,000.
And you don't know what's going to be the amount until they actually make the
Correct,
application.
correct,
Every
yeah.
project's a little bit different.
Right.
So
And
some could be grand, some could be small.
And do they ever, when the city's doing theirs, do they ever have somebody who's asked for like more than they would want to give, but like they offer them like, well, we can't give you that amount, but we could give you this amount?
The council does, I know in their selection of what they've given people, they have given less than what has been asked for. In some cases, they might have given more. It's just been up to them. And for the city council, they do a subcommittee. So they assign 2 council members that review the applications. They come up with their recommendation of funding for the applicants, whether they're going to fund it at the amount that was requested, some lesser or higher amount, or not at all. And then that goes to the full council for their approval. So this will be the second round that they'll be doing in that. So I think, and I think to Commissioner Mojica's point, one of the questions that I wanted to see if you want as a criteria is for applicants to identify if they have other funding sources that are going to help.
Yes.
And so, and does that help, would that be a criteria you use in evaluating the applicants, that if it's an applicant that is partially funded by the city and then has other funding sources to help them do whatever, is that a stronger application than just, you want the city to fully fund whatever it is? But the commission or the council does ask that question, and I know that I think they give priority for organizations that have some other funding or some other skin in the game, but that's up to you if because you might have somebody that is maybe just an artist or something that doesn't have other funding sources, and they need maybe a small amount of funding to execute something. So maybe that is still as strong of an applicant as somebody that's going to do something larger that is going to leverage other funding to do something else.
Maybe if the wording said something like, if the total cost of the project exceeds the grant amount that we're able to give, do you have other sources of funding?
Oh, that's a good one.
Right, because that's really what we care about is like, if we can't give you all the money, are you still going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Craig, then what that would do is that would give you room to decide and play with it a little bit. If you had something that was really special that you needed, and you could still split it out, I think. Thank you. Yeah.
I think as a commission, would your desire be to fund more? I mean, have like more than one applicant be able to receive the funding in a given year versus like all of it going to one applicant?
I know, I would.
Multiple.
I would hate to spend $10,000 on one thing that comes through here and then like just have to like squeeze everybody else in the other 10,000. Like I would hate to have to do that. But again, I don't think we're going to understand who is coming for these grants until we get through the first year.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yep. It's hard to judge it until we
Right.
have somebody in there to give you to look at.
And remember, everybody asks for the maximum amount that they can.
That's right.
Sometimes.
So they will do that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful, wonderful program, and thank you to the city.
So going back to eligibility, So I think we clarified that you do not have to be a nonprofit organization. So that the proposed applicant, I would say, I had something written down, now I'm trying to find it. That the proposals could be received from artists, performers, authors, musicians, collectives, nonprofits, community groups, and I would say, or other governmental entities. So if it was a school district, it was a tribe, it was somebody else, that they would all be eligible to apply for funding under this.
So that would be something like at the CV Rep, if there was some sort of competition, reading, something, they could, would the artists themselves, I guess, apply, or the CV Rep, or both? Or
Either one.
Okay, got it.
Either one. Again, as long as they can either, get a W-9, so they either have to have a social security number or a EIN number, then we can pay them for whatever the activity is.
Got it.
Oh, another question. I know you're working through the form, but just to throw that out there, because I didn't see it right off the bat, but do you know if there's any grant reporting expectation at the end of the period tied to the grant?
I think there should be. I don't know what that is specifically, but I think there should be some report of what the activity was, how many people participated, what did they hope to accomplish, did they accomplish it? So I think there should be something that ties it up, that they did what they intended to do, and it was done in time, it had its intended, hopefully had its intended goals, and that the funding was spent appropriately.
Agreed, yeah. Accountability, yep.
I had something in there about agree to comply with all grant requirements and reporting obligations, but I didn't have what those obligations were. For the grant application, that they, provide a project proposal detailing what they wish to use the funds for, intended audience, if there's community engagement strategies and anticipated outcomes, their proposed budget, outlining, any artist fees, materials, installations, or administrative fees. I wouldn't think that with a funding this small that there would be a lot of overhead that could be utilized by this grant. It's going to be probably more for just direct activities. Their timeline outlining their key project milestones and activities, and then if there are any letters of support, if there are other community partners that they can identify that can speak for them or are supporting their effort, that's an option that they have available to provide to you to again see what their connectivity is to others. Is there anything else that you would like to make sure is in a grant application so that as you're looking at these applications for consideration, is there anything else that would be important to you? So the council's was, to describe how the funds will be used. Do you have other funding sources? How will the city's contribution leverage or match the other funds? They have ask for a description of the history and expertise of their organization. Anything like that, I would suggest not just their expertise. They might not be an organization, it might be an individual. And do you think that's important to know what their history is of doing these things?
And I was going to say, Anna just brought me up to this when I looked at this one, and since eligibility requirements demonstrate a track record of artistic excellence and community engagement. If it's somebody new, somebody starting out, smaller group, if they didn't have any kind of CV, or if they didn't have how would they submit that?
Well, like I said, this is all draft language.
Got it. Okay.
This was a ChatGPT created, the one that's kind of more narrative. ChatGPT created that for me just as a template to work from. So again, I wanted to just give you some talking points and wanted to solicit your input of like what seems right, what doesn't. This wasn't intended to be kind of final document, but I agree. One of the best examples of it, I think it was Grand Rapids. There's a great YouTube video about this, of this guy that, it was at a time when the city was just decimated. And there was a reporter that came out and said it was like the worst city in the nation, and they took it really personally. And this 20-year-old kid came to the city and says, I want to do a lip dub. And, the council's like, what? What's a lip dub? And, just had no idea what this kid was talking about. And he wanted $20,000. And they're like, well, you have no track record of doing anything. We have no idea who you are, but we can, connect you with some people that have some funding. And so they did. And what this young man did was he did this, lip dub of, so everyone's kind of lip syncing to, and I don't know the name of the actual song, but it's a Bye Bye Miss American Pie song. And they had thousands of community members that they did it as like one take of them walking through the song and just different elements of the community coming together, ended up with pyrotechnics and a helicopter ride, and it put the city on the map in ways unlike anything. But again, here is this young person that has, we as government, it's like, yeah, show us your track record, show us you're proven. But when we're talking about creative activities, that isn't always the case. So I don't want to put anything in here that would be too much of a barrier to, somebody coming in with some, neat idea that a little bit of funding could go a long way to do something really unique.
Since he brought that up, I also wanted to bring up, on the same page, it says, space for participants may be limited, the activity may be provided for only a limited time, and a charge may be imposed for participation in the activity, but eligibility requirements you have must be accessible to the community for what is intended and free of charge.
Is that in the upper part of the page?
So if you look up above where it says draft, right
Yeah.
under it. It's
Yeah,
the third-
I just took that out of the ordinance, so that was I just dropped that in there just for discussion. But yeah, I would think that anything that was funded by this, you would probably want to make available for free to the community or accessible, but I guess that's up to you to decide. If the city is providing grant funding for this, should it be open and accessible to anyone that wanted to attend?
Right, but then if, at the same time, we have it that in our ordinance itself, right, it says that they can propose, a fee. So, I wouldn't want to, if they want to do something for, I don't know, if they wanted to do something to where, I don't know, the senior center wanted to do some type of function where they are raising money or something like that, and they wanted us to help them out, like the jazz thing, if they wanted to raise money for something, I'm not opposed to that. So I think that's something that we have to figure out as a group, is if that's okay too, right? I don't want to.
So I guess would the criteria be that if they wanted to do an event and that event raised funds to help support, like say it was, like a high school band or something, that there wouldn't be an admission cost, but if people wanted to donate, they could do that, or the council has been, I know when items have come to the council, even though that is in the ordinance, they have really not liked the idea of there being any kind of barrier to entry, so that if there is a cost of admission, they've really not, if we ever do a rewrite of the ordinance, that will probably go away, because I think their view on it has been that if the city's going to fund something, that people should have open access to that. And if if we're going to give another organization money to charge admission, then we shouldn't use public funds for that. So,
Right, but if they can get 3 votes to pass that, then that would be passed, but it's stayed in the ordinance for a reason, and I don't know if we should be changing that. It is in the ordinance, though. So until they do change it, I don't think as a commission we should change it. That's one of the things that's in their own ordinance.
yeah, but everything that's, it's in the ordinance, but you do not have, you're setting your own criteria for the grant. I would not suggest to you that you set a grant criteria that allows a grant recipient to charge admission, because it'll be dead on the water with the council.
You're correct, but I also wouldn't put it in there, it must be for free. I would just leave it alone. Because, they're going to go to the ordinance and read it anyway.
I think what you mentioned before was I know I've been to the jazz concert thing and it's free,
Correct.
but they do have a donation thing and people are very generous and they do the donation thing that helps them, I think, too. So I think, as long as they say it's a donation and people want to give it, if they don't have it, they don't give it. Right?
Yeah, but see, we're limited to them because we're saying it must be for free.
Well, it is.
Well,
Yeah.
It is.
The only reason I put the language of the ordinance in there was just for discussion. I'm not suggesting putting the ordinance language in your grant application.
That's correct, but what I'm saying is I'd rather just take the free of charge off. is what I'm saying. I mean, must be free, donation, I mean, they're still making money off of it.
Well, they're not really charging, though, that the donation is if you choose to donate to that, there is a, and that's what they do.
Yeah, it's usually like the ticket price is set at 0,
Right.
and then you can change that if you want. But it must be, like, default is 0.
Basically a jar.
Yeah,
It's
a virtual jar.
It's just a jar. People put a few bucks in if they want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something we did.
I just wanted to bring it out that what we're saying and what we're putting here are two different things, from the ordinance to this, but I mean, again, you guys can vote however you want it. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that they're both there. That was it.
The other thing that, and I wanted to kind of run by you, because I think that there would probably, you would want to allow for people outside of Cathedral City to be able to do this, as long as the activities are in Cathedral City and available to Cathedral City residents. And so I wanted to toss that out there and see what your thoughts are on that. Because while we certainly have a lot of talented individuals within the city, there's also a lot of very creative people around the city that would potentially want to submit for this to do programming and activities in the city. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
No, I saw that, and that line under eligibility, I think I agree 100%. If we're funding it, it should be in Cathedral City. Yeah, there's no question.
But that the person and the person or organization does
they
not
can be
meet.
from anywhere, yeah. Oh, yeah. But it benefits the city of Cathedral City if they're doing that performance, that art, that is here. So it's for the city of Cathedral City, yep.
But I imagine that when it comes before the commission, if there's a choice between Palm Desert and an artist in Cathedral City, the Cathedral City should have some priority, even though it is open to everybody. Because that way we get two things taken care of.
Do you want that as a criteria for your grant, that preference will be given to Cathedral City residents, organizations, artists, or businesses?
What do you think?
Or do you just
No,
want to leave that as a variable when you're reviewing
The
applications?
thing about, because lately I've been attending a lot of different kinds of performances, and there's a lot of people that have coming from out of the area, but they've been in these incredible performances, and I would like the city to experience that. So, I mean, no, I just don't want to put that kind of limit on it, because I really want it to be, like you said, this young man came from completely out of that city, so I don't want to limit it that way, because then the whole point of this is to really foster something special, unique, creative, something, and so sometimes you've got to go outside of your own, so yeah, I'd like to keep that open. Like I said, the things I've been experiencing, there were different, like there was just people from all over, and I really, really loved it, so.
So like what you're talking about, I think the example you said before was like a dance troupe, but the performance would be in Cathedral City.
It was correct, and it was a number of dance groups, but some were from San Diego, some were from LA, some were for that, but the range of the culture, I mean, it was just phenomenal. And so, yeah, I wouldn't want to limit that, so we just we don't have that many dance groups in the city. We don't have a lot of poetry in the city. There's some things that we have limits here, but this could start that and open that up and create that momentum. So I want to bring them here, have them happen, and then get people jazzed about it so that would inspire people and we could create more of that. So, yeah, I think, but definitely they have to happen in the city for sure.
Question. Do we, for the other program that has grants, what does the rubric look like? Is it like a point system, or is it just a discussion, or like how do we?
I think the council just take the applications and discuss them amongst themselves. I'm not sure if they have a score sheet that they utilize, but certainly if there is, maybe it's something we can develop before we sit down with the applicants to determine what those review criteria would be.
The reason I ask is just because I agree with Commissioner Liebelt about lots of opportunities coming from outside of Cathedral City that Cathedral City could benefit from. But at the same time, all things considered, if there were two applications that were, if we did have a scoring system where they were on par,
Yeah.
I have seen scenarios where there are like bonus points awarded to something that is within community, but that's only if all the other things, if there's like you need a tiebreaker type of situation. Just putting it out there. I'm not like strongly advocating for or against it, but just,
Yeah.
as a kind of like a.
No, I think that's valid.
So you're basically saying like we could put on there like, priorities given or given to residents of Cathedral City, or, like, not priority, but like,
Special consideration.
huh?
Yes.
Special consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like-
I think, but I always feel like we have to be careful about that too. It cannot be something that's known but not spoken. Because, so I'm just saying.
They know now.
I know, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you put that in the criteria, I guess it's not going to stop people from asking, or it's not going to stop one of us from sponsoring and, bringing something or encouraging something to do that, so.
The only thing I was implying was exactly what Crystal was talking about, that if
Yes.
you have two
Yes,
equal
yes,
products,
yes.
I think, it is the city's money, and we have some obligations to our citizens.
But isn't that something that we just discussed?
Yeah, and it would be
ourselves.
discussed,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yes.
So there could be a wink, wink.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Well, and I mean, to me, it's, you're going to have that discussion about all the applicants. And so if you have, whether they're local or not, you're going to have, okay, I'm going to weigh these two applicants against one another. And, all things being equal, maybe the fact that they're a Cathedral City resident or business or artist becomes a deciding factor of, having to choose between two applicants.
Because like I said, my caution is if you actually state that, then would that discourage people, outside of the area from participating? That's all.
Yeah, no, I understand.
maybe, but they're getting free money.
Yeah,
So I think
right.
that's
It's part of
encouragement
the,
enough,
right,
so.
right.
So have, narrative about what they want to use the funds for, their concept, their audience, what their budget is, if they have any funding sources, that they're going to leverage with this. What do they hope to accomplish from the project? There's a question that the council asked on their application, that if the program costs more than they're requesting, how do they plan to pay for the additional costs, or have they taken steps to get additional funding or in kind if necessary? Would you like a question like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
It's about that if the funding that you're requesting from the grant program exceeds, or your program costs exceed what you're eligible to ask for, do you have other means, or have you taken other steps to try to secure other funding or in-kind support?
I think that's very important, because we don't want to grant some funds of a project that never comes to fruition because they couldn't get it up off the ground. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
It doesn't guarantee everything, but at least it was up front asked.
Okay. And you're okay with asking a question about timelines for their project?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And is there anything that you would want to limit or not allow as a potential project? Is there anything that you could think of that would be something you would not want to see?
I could foresee somebody coming in and wanting to do a show and have alcohol and beverage, would we do that or not do that? If they were doing an art show? Because I know
The grant, I think the grant wouldn't be able to fund alcohol. If somebody was having a reception that had wine, the city has participated in those kind of events, but the city could not fund it for, as part of, somebody wanting to do an art show.
Yeah, but I could see something going on like that. I don't know if we would want to do that. Because before, remember when I was doing the old gays, I couldn't. Pace could do the refreshments, but we couldn't. That was a different thing.
Well, we couldn't do the wine for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was a different funding source.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, it was all still general fund dollars, but,
Well, I think you're going to have to probably wait and see what the applicants are, but if you have somebody wanting to come and do Old Calcutta on the amphitheater, the answer would be no.
You're reading my mind.
Yeah, so you got, there's a taste barrier that has to be put in
I would
place.
say it has to be G or PG.
Yeah.
Do that rating system, right?
But I don't know if that needs to be put in the application or that. I think you just need to wait and see per individuals what those cases may be.
Like appropriate for all ages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, like, in the call for artists, that we have that, don't we? Something like that, Ann? Yeah,
we
like-
had some kind of language about, like, sexual content, or, it couldn't depict the legal activity or things like that, but I think that also is open to interpretation, probably, of,
Again, we're going to get all these anyway, so I mean, if we
Yeah.
don't.
We're all going to discuss
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
like I said, but we're just kind
and
of.
the council will ultimately approve them too, so
Right.
there's kind of two levels of being able to get the litmus test of the community on it.
I don't know, I still think in this day and age, I think that something along the lines about appropriate for all ages, or P, something along that level, that's a nice way of saying it, but letting people know that, yes, it's not,
Something that's not promoting any kind of hate ideals or anything like that, or, okay. Okay. I confirmed with Kevin, our finance director, that when they do their grant application process, they put it out on the streets for 30 days. So I would probably recommend kind of a similar timeline, that this be out there for applicants, and then give you what time you need to review the applications for approval and submittal to the council.
So what you're saying is, so we can so throughout the year, be encouraging people, promoting this, and then telling them, and then this specific timeline is when you submit them.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, what the city does is we do, and I would assume that this would take a similar practice. We publicize it through our social media efforts, on our website, on Discover Cathedral City, on our web, and then I don't know if they send it out to any previous applicants that have been submitted. I see that this is something that we could submit out to any of the distribution list, any of the arts organizations, any of the connections that we've already established through these recent events, plus, Perez, plus Desert Arts, plus, all of the different groups, the schools, et cetera. And just kind of cast the net widely, and kind of let people know it's a new program, it's an expedited timeframe. You're probably going to have about 6 months to put your ideas together and get them done. But then following, you'll have a full 12 months to develop and execute on projects.
Sounds good.
And then we could try this one, and then if we, depending on what the applicant pool is and what your applications look like, if it needs to tweak before the next round, we could certainly go back and retweak the application if it needs to maybe be a little bit narrower or broader or whatever, depending on the applications that you guys get. So I think this can be a work in progress, just depending on, what comes in the door. But I just wanted to make sure that I had good feedback on just some of the core things. For the grant amount, is it 1 to 10,000 is the amount that you want to put? Do you want to put something less, being that your total pool of money is less? What are your thoughts?
I don't know, does there need to be a minimum?
No?
I would say grants up to, I still like 10,000, and if we want to do it less than that, we can, but I still like up to 10. And that way it can be, I just like that it's fluid.
Okay.
That's just my 2 cents.
It doesn't mean that they're going to get 10. and it
That's
doesn't
correct.
mean that we
That's
can't do
absolutely
4.
correct. That's correct.
So it just.
Yeah.
We can, if they can,
wait and
like I
see.
said, they can ask, because you're right.
They're gonna
If people are
ask.
going to ask for that, but we can say, given the scope of your project, we are willing, but we are willing to give you this, and so we can, and that's where do you have other funding sources if you don't get the full amount? Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and I also, if somebody needs $500 for something, maybe there's small grant amounts that it doesn't preclude
Exactly, and
them
that's
from.
what I was, so it's fluid, so that we can be, yep. I just like it to be fluid. What do you think?
My thought process is what's going to cost 10,000? What's going to come through here that's going to cost 10,000?
I was curious if there was an organization that did this dance project, and just say there was 20 groups and several of them came from out of town, you know, and they were like just saving 500 just for expenses to get here, do that, or whatever kind of stuff. If you have 20, just say 20 people, that would be 10 grand right there. Just to even give them each 500, just to like give them nominal, you know, just to get your transportation kind of thing.
Okay, but you don't think those people will charge?
No. If that's the criteria that it's a free event, no.
Okay.
If that's the criteria that we're saying, if you're going to come and do that, we'll give you this money, but that's so that we're giving you that money to defray those costs of expenses to come here and do that, so that you don't charge.
Okay.
So you want to hold a contest like Perfect Pitch with the a cappella groups? No.
I'm more of a so you think you can dance kind of guy. There's too many great musical shows out there. I'm more about the dance.
You guys don't think that we should just break it up into even up to like an even amount to get the most we can out of it?
For instance?
Well, 2,000 piece, or we're giving so many grants at 2,000.
Just do say 10 grants of 2,000 each?
I don't know if that would be easier or, like up to,
Just everybody's going to have different funding needs. As Assistant Manager Ambrose said, there's going to be some people who will ask for $200, $500. You know, if you remember the Scrap Gallery, the last time we funded them, I think that was $700, if I remember, for supplies for the Butterfly Project, if I remember correctly. So there's going to be, I think you're better to have everything open, but it'd be smarter, I think, to put a limit, not to limit the entire 20, say up to 20,000, because then you only have one
Right, no.
grantee
I agree with that.
in that. So if you say 10, maybe,
Because I keep thinking, didn't we have that one gentleman from that arts group?
yeah, we were going to give them 10
Yeah.
for the youth symphony,
Yeah.
but that was a different funding source and a different,
So see if we could-
great, but he would have.
but I mean, you're not going to know what people want until these actual applications start coming in.
Yeah.
And you should try not to limit yourself or limit them.
Yeah, I remember seeing the council grants, between like $2,000 and $10,000, I think, and, I can't remember if they had anything lower than like maybe 1,000 or 2,000, but they, smaller to, they had kind of a range of amounts that they had given, and some, and I don't know what the council's criteria was, if they tried to give something to everyone that applied, or if there were certain grantees that applied and just didn't match the requirements. I'm not sure, but I know that they really thoughtfully went through the applications the last 2 times that they've done this program.
Maybe having the lower amount is a good thing because it shows people that will fund lower stuff. They might think, oh, they're only going to fund for like 10,000. If we say like it could be 500 to whatever.
I would suggest if you did it that way, that I would put it at a lower amount than the 1,000, just to give people that, encouragement. But if
Because what you're saying to the people who would do that it's okay to apply because they might think they're priced out because like, oh.
Right. Well, you could say, yes, any grants ranging from, right? Say 250. 250 to,
Okay.
up to 10,000.
Okay. But I like that because it encourages the smaller
That
people
doesn't-
to apply.
Yeah, that doesn't
Yeah,
mean you all
yeah.
have to fund a $10,000 one. If they
correct.
can justify that expense.
That's correct.
And it's a project that's worthy, perhaps there's half your budget for the year, and you've got another 10,000 to break down into 4 2,500s, or whatever the case may be, but you won't know until these people come in.
Yeah.
But in my experience, people will ask for the maximum.
Sure.
So,
So in this discussion, do you want the minimum to be 250?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that,
that sounds good to me.
That's good.
okay,
Yep, I'd say 250.
okay.
So Tom, on that thought process, knowing that people were going to ask for the 10,000, that's why I keep going back to maybe it's easier just to split it up, to up to the 2,000.
So can we say up to 5,000? And then what if somebody needs more? Can we be fluid enough and grant them? Like you said, city council sometimes gives them more.
They can, you could I don't think they went above the 10,000, though. I think maybe if somebody asked for 5 and they got 7, but they didn't exceed the maximum amount put into that.
Yeah.
You won't know until they start coming in and what they are, so
I still say this first year,
be fluid.
be fluid and see what happens. And we take our chances,
can
and then we're
always-
all going to discuss it.
You can all change it
Yep.
down the
And
road.
we can change it next year
easily.
if it doesn't feel right. Yep.
Any other comments, or I'll take the feedback that you provided and put together the final grant application to submit to the council, and we'll get that approved, or submit to them for approval on the 26th, and then if they approve it, then we can work after that to set a 30-day timeline for people to submit and can begin doing outreach on the application. If the council approves it, then we'll send it to all of you electronically as well, so that you can also submit that to individuals or organizations that you know that might be interested in applying.
Can we see before you take it to, can we see before you take it to city council, just what it's going to look like?
Of course.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this agenda item?
I just thought of something. I was going to say
Yes.
no. Just looking through the application, it does address, like, what do you hope to accomplish through your proposed service? And I know one of the requirements is for it to be open to community, but I was wondering if there's a way to just tweak the wording so that we can quantify how many people they expect to benefit. I know the implication is the whole community can participate, but if they can, quantify like the scale of impact in some way, because I'm thinking like we might come across a project that's $1,000, but it ends up benefiting way more people than the more costly project, and so that would be more for us to later discuss, like how we are assessing the applications. But if we have that information in the application, it'll help our discussion.
Yes. I can tweak that for it. Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal.
Okay, are there any public comments at this point?
Chair, we do not have any requests to speak forms and no attendees in the meeting.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on then to the next item, which is the report on the Ocotillo Bench Project and selection of special meeting date to review artists' submittals.
Great. Thank you, Chair. So this has been really fun. We extended the deadline 1 week for the artist submittals because we were coming down to the wire and we were under 20 applicants. And then the day we extended the application, we got a bunch, and then we've been continuing to get applications up until yesterday. Well, actually, yeah, through yesterday. I'm not sure what our total number is so far. I know Christine and I have been kind of messing with them, but
Ballpark, maybe 40.
yeah. So we're about 40 artists. Some have submitted multiple pieces for your consideration. And there's, I think, some really great stories that I'm really excited for you to have the opportunity to review them. What we need to do, though, is to establish the date for when you would like to do the review of the artists so that we can get that scheduled, because we'll need to do that as a special meeting because you've decided as a commission that you want to review them together, and so we'll have to do that as a noticed meeting. So I wanted to see if you had some ideas on dates. We are tentatively going to City Council on August 14th for the approval of your recommended artists so that we can kind of keep on schedule with that. So sometime between now in August, we need to have a meeting for you to come up with your recommendations. So I wanted to throw that out to you to see if you want to try to meet sometime in June or July.
What dates do you have open? Because that would be what we have open to use this room, right? Or
Well, the June council meeting is June 26th. The July council meeting is July 24th. Do you know if Planning Commission's dark, Christina?
I'm not sure, but just based on just the calendar that I see, I have some potential dates. The Tuesdays do work best for staff, although we can do it during the daytime as well. But just to note, we have June 25th is an open day on the calendar. No other commissions are meeting. It's a Tuesday. July 2nd would also be a Tuesday. That's open on the calendar. I'm not sure about the Planning Commission. I don't know that they voted to go dark, so they could potentially be meeting. But we do have those Wednesdays that the council is dark as well as a potential meeting date.
My staff report deadline is probably July 19th at the latest. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry, July 17th. So I wouldn't want to push it too far into July so that I can have time to put that all together and put that packet together for the council.
Because my thought is around that July 2nd date, it gives every 2 weeks. And my other thought is if there was anything that we needed, we can all review these at home in the meantime.
Yes.
Separately, we can't discuss them though. Is that correct, Christina?
Correct.
With each other, okay.
You all have access to
All
the
access.
folder.
But in the meantime, Crystal and I, if we needed something additional from an artist, we can still reach out to them.
Yes.
Before that next, but I would say it gives us all 2 weeks to review them. And if we came back about 2-ish, right, where maybe 3-ish, about to come back and review it and come back and do it July 2nd,
June 25th is is roughly.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Was that one of the dates, Christina, June 25th?
That is an open date, and again, we also have,
Better than July 2nd, because I know July 2nd is close to July 4th.
Yeah, that people get,
People got
That was
vacation.
very subtle.
yeah.
I understand.
Could be your
I
June.
don't have a calendar yet in front of me. So,
June would be good.
June,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
June 26th,
25.
25, okay.
Does that work for everyone?
What time?
I'm sorry, it's got to be in the evening for me.
Okay.
we can do the 5 p.m.
That work for you guys? Okay. I just don't want to be about me, but I can't do it during the day.
Yeah, I was also going to be like, ooh, July 2nd's a little close.
Yeah, that,
No, you were just, she was like,
for
everyone's being
vacation.
very polite about that, so. June 25th, all right. Okay, so we will schedule that out, and we'll get the packet together for you to look at. What I will include in that is for the discussion is also the map of the park. And so as you're looking at, and also I'll try to put together kind of a scoring sheet so that, as you're going through your artists, you can, if it might be easiest if you all have some commonality of artists that you like as you're going through the selection, and then maybe, it kind of goes around the edges of, okay, if you have 10 that are all common, then you can battle over the rest of them, because there's a lot of really good submittals, so.
and again, I don't know if all of you have been to the park, familiar with the park, but when I was discussing with Ann, I said, so as I'm reviewing these submissions, and because I've now gone to the park several times, I'm already, as a former gallery director, I'm already curating it. So, and again, we haven't selected them, but you guys will see there's some consistent kind of similar groupings. So I'm already kind of grouping like certain things together, whichever ones we choose, right? And there's some that would be great, standalones, because we have some standalone benches. So as you're reviewing this, I'm just like kind of think of things like, I call it storytelling. When you bring certain things, if you find the ones you like and you bring them, they can talk to each other and tell a story. Because there's the skateboard area, there's the basketball area, there's, I call it the
Water
little ones.
features.
The water features, things like that. So yeah, as you're reviewing them, what I started doing is going, oh, these two are great together. These will talk to each other. This will be a great group, like a great story thing. And you'll see, it's really extra. I mean, I've been looking through these two, and a few people have submitted several, and I just went, dang, they're all good. So and I love, just as I had hoped for the diversity that we received, for people listening, thank you so much, because it just really made me happy. I mean, because everybody, it's really great to see the response. It's great to see the diversity and all kinds of different imagery. So it's exactly what we wanted for the city. So thank you all so much. And it's a fun challenge because there's so many great things to choose from. So, yeah.
Yeah, I will, I don't know if it's in there right now, but I'll make sure that I get to Christina to drop into the shared folder the map of the park so that you can see where all the benches are located in the park and what features have adjacency to those benches, so that as you're thinking about the pieces that you're looking at, that you can, start thinking of them in context of the space.
And did we come up with, Christina, is there a way to do like a printed sheet of like the artists, and so for each of us separately to like tally mark like our favorites kind of thing, so we can kind of, before we come,
Excel spreadsheet.
like an Excel spreadsheet, so we can kind of pre-coming together, we can kind of have it right, or I guess.
You can rank your own.
Because what I kind of did is the spreadsheet that I actually printed it out. And I kind of started doing that myself, like going through and making notes and like doing, whatever my little note system is. So if there's a way, that we can do that so that we can also make those particular notes or favorites or like your number one, whatever choices.
Absolutely.
I think there's some that we're all probably going to agree on, and then there's some that's going to get a little more spread out. And so then those are the ones that we have to then, there'll be more discussion on. And
I can tell you from the last 2 times at the Library Bench Project and for the bridge, when we started reviewing the possibilities, you would forget things that would happen earlier, details to which you made notes of, and then wouldn't be able to remember it when we went to actually pick it. So it'd be wonderful if everybody can spend the time before reviewing the files that the staff has sent, so you have some familiarity with it, that you're not seeing it for the first time when we have that meeting in 2 weeks. Because when you're looking at 40 different artists and 40 different interpretations, they all sort of melt together after around 23.
And this is why I said I started making notes. And remember, some of these artists have done multiples. Some have done 2, some have done 3, some have done 4. So even within that, I was kind of going back the ones, and that was only the ones I get.
And then you're fighting that with their other arts that they're submitting to just, look at their past artistic expressions, and so it becomes a lot. One of the things.
Someone, it's like I almost wanted to say to them, it's like that, Ken, and one person I actually did that to, I said that can you like reformat this, because they did this really great expression thing, and I said, and they thankfully they did that. So doing that extension. It was a great thing, and it was because the fact that we doubled the amount of submissions was extraordinary.
Between Commissioner Liebelt and Christina, we've been trying to identify anyone that hasn't submitted a completed application. So someone may have forgotten their statement of interest or their resume or things like that. So throughout this process, we've been trying to reach out to those artists and ask them to complete that information, so that at the point that you get their information, that you have complete packets. And we've only had one that hasn't, been willing to provide that, but everyone else has been very responsive to, the request. It's a small request of just their resume, their statement of why they're interested, samples of their art, and their draft of the bench. And so I think we've been pretty consistent in getting that from most of the candidates.
And I just realized that I think somebody had texted one to me, and I didn't know quite how to forward that to you, other than if I have to download the text and then do that. So we have to figure out a way for me to get that and add it to that portfolio.
I would say, can they text it to you, Ann, and Ann can provide it to me?
Okay.
Yeah, just that would be fine. But I think you'll be excited to see and to read why these artists are interested in doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think age ranges are from younger people to, I think, 70s. Somebody identified their age, and so I think there's a great range of all kinds of individuals locally and regionally that are part of that.
And Ann, the other thing, though, that you and I discussed, it's about some of the criteria, some of the imagery we're going to be cautious about. It appears as the artwork of other artists, known artists, and so we're going to have to look at that one and make sure, if we want, about copyright issues, about that, if we were ever to reproduce that as as a unique piece of art, we'd be fine, but if we ever wanted to do anything with it,
And I believe in the criteria for the call for artists was that it had to be their own, unique, original art piece. And there's one in particular that Commissioner Liebelt is talking about. And then there was a second one that was recently submitted that had sort of imagery that, I don't know that it was necessarily copyrighted, but could potentially be. And so will be one that, it'll be obvious to you when you look at it. But those were the only two that I can think of that will really have to be considered whether their art is original to themselves or not. One, it'll be very obvious that it's an image that's very commonly available and known. So,
Question in regards to collaboration with the PACE committee. I always forget the acronyms, I always get them mixed up. But what would be the best next touch point with them? Would it be letting them know that we're going to be meeting on June 25th, and so after that they can expect just a general, a courtesy update from us? Or is there something that we need to loop them into through the selection process more from a facilities and, I don't know?
no, nothing that you need to do with PACE, and they're, I believe, dark next month as well. The coordination of the actual painting will be through the city's Public Works Department, and so Deanna our Public Works Manager, will coordinate the priming of the benches and getting them ready for the artists for the dates that become scheduled. I think once we have the recommendations and the approval from the council, certainly I think that'd be an opportune time to go to the PACE Commission and let them know what has been decided and solicit any assistance from the commission for the actual day of events. So my guess is, being that right now we have it scheduled for a weekend of the actual painting. So if there's assistance that's needed by the PACE Commission for either that or the potential that we had talked about doing kind of a community event to, just again, really formally unveil all the completed benches. I think that would be opportune times to get on their agenda to talk about partnerships and, any budgetary needs from either both commissions to do that.
And since both that commission and this commission will be meeting back again in September, we have these scheduled. The actual painting is the first weekend of October, and then the community event is the second weekend of October. So we have time to get back and
It would be the September meeting that
Sorry?
maybe we would go to their September meeting to.
We could?
Are they dark August too, Christina, or just July?
Yes, so they'll be meeting September 3rd.
Okay,
September 3rd, okay.
thank you.
Any other comments from the commission on this agenda item? Any public comments?
Chair Rudolph, we do not have any request to speak forms on this item.
Next, we move on to the next and last agenda item, Public Arts Commission Chair and Vice Chair nomination system discussion.
And I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Herrera, who asked this item be put on the agenda. She'd asked for this item to be discussed by the commission about the process for selecting the chair and vice chair and consideration of adopting a process similar to the city council mayor rotational system. And so I will turn it over to Commissioner.
Yeah, the reason why I brought this up is so we are going to end up using September's meeting to do this, and so for nominations or whatever, but in this route, if we decide to go where we do rotational, we'll already know who's the chair and the vice chair, and then staff will be actually to work with them during our off time. So whoever that is, it will already be ready to go for September meeting, and then we can just keep going. We won't have to do elections. We will already know.
So my first question is, do any of the other commissions do this?
No,
And why has it never been done up to this point?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I love that.
I am going to bring it before city council, though.
Are you? Because I'm just curious if this is something that city council also has to approve, though, if this is the way they set up these commissions and how these commissions run.
Ann?
So this wouldn't require council approval. The ordinance, let me find it here. So what's currently in the code about sort of the selection of chairs or vice chairs? It just states that Unless otherwise provided by law or by ordinance or resolution, each board and commission of the city shall annually, at its first meeting held after June 30th, choose one of its number as chairperson and one as vice chairperson. Each chairperson and vice chair shall have the authority and perform such duties as are commonly associated with their respective titles and may be specially prescribed by law or bylaws or other rules of the board or commission. So if the commission wished to adopt a procedure for how you adopt or how you select, it wouldn't need to go back to the council. We wouldn't need to amend the ordinance because it's really silent on how you make that selection anyways. It just says, go do it. So the council, on the other hand, has a very prescribed process for the selection and the appointment of the mayor and the mayor pro tem positions.
And they go right into their positions, so they already know who's next. And we're not the only, there's other cities that do this on their commissions. They have the chair, they have their vice chair, and they rotate. Thoughts?
My only concern would be, and I've seen it in the last 6 years, is there are certain members of the commission that have no time, energy, or interest in being either chair or vice chair. And so it would put them in a position, do they say, I say no, and you move on to the next person? That would be the only thing, because, there's a lot of people who are just on the commission for an advise and consent situation, to bring their knowledge, their background to what needs to be done and decided upon. But there's always other people that have extra time and extra focus that they can give to being chair and vice chair. Not that it takes that much extra time, but there is usually an agenda meeting, some thought process going. And I would just hate to see people not applying for the commission or feeling like they're being pressured on the commission.
They can just simply skip. That's how other commissions do it. They can just skip the rotation. This just stops us from having to do a whole thing in September. City staff can already start working with whoever's going to be the chair and the vice chair during the time off. It just flows. That's why I brought this up to the thought process. But I am going to bring this to City Council for all our commissions. It just makes sense.
I have a couple thoughts. So I think the pro of that would be not necessarily professional development, but like leadership development, I guess. I could see that being a pro for newer members or members who are looking for that, commissioners who are looking for that kind of experience. And I think it would be a good growth opportunity and mentorship opportunity potentially to do that within your 3-year tenure. Not necessarily a con, but a caveat would be availability. And if folks don't have the bandwidth to carry on the duties of chair or vice chair, but if we have a mechanism for folks to skip or abstain, maybe there's a limit on that. Like maybe you can only skip once in your term or something like that. I don't know. Just like throwing out ideas. Then maybe that could be a way around that. Yeah, just thinking about like longevity and like prepared. Like if you do have the same person be chair or vice chair and then they term out and nobody else has experience in those roles, that would be kind of rough for that commission. But I don't know if that's a scenario that we've come across or not. I'm just thinking like in any kind of workplace where you want to prepare the next folks in line and the rotation seems like a good idea, but I don't know.
How would that work when we have a 3-year term? How are we going to rotate 5 people through 3 years?
Well, we don't all have the same
Yeah,
term.
we're all
It's
staggered.
staggered. Yeah.
Council's the same way. They're all staggered.
The only difference with the council is there's no term limits right now in the council. That with the commissions, there's a term limit that you can't serve more than X terms. With the council, they don't have term limits, so they can serve as many terms as they're elected. And that would be the only difference between the boards and the city council in terms of longevity.
Right.
I never thought about it, to be quite honest. My thoughts are too, yes, if there's people that want it, don't want it, and I also look at how participatory are people, and how, what they bring or what the original intent was to be on the commission in the first place, kind of what, Krista, were you saying that about, or Tom, just about what their motives are? So I don't know, never thought about it. And I guess because none of the other commissions do it, I just had never thought about it.
Yeah, I think other cities do it, just this, not our city. Our city actually has
Right.
elections for that seat.
Right.
If you're planning on bringing it forth in front of the council, I would be interested to hear their take on it and kind of how it applies across different commissions as well, because I don't know enough.
And that's my thought too. If one commission does it, then, so there's that set of, and nothing wrong with setting a precedent. We can do it right. So, yeah, I was just I'd be curious too. But you said there, according to that, the,
Do what we'd like.
yeah.
It wouldn't, if the commission decided they wanted to come up with a process for how you selected chair and vice chair, you could do that. But there currently isn't anything stated in the ordinance. It just says that you will annually, at your first meeting after June 30th, choose someone to be the chairperson, someone to be the vice chairperson. That is currently what's in the ordinance related to that for commissions.
And you've been on the commission for a while, and you've been on the commission for a while. We're public, the three newer. Has there always been a different chairperson, vice chairperson every year
No?
Deanne was 2 years in a
Yeah.
row,
as chairperson?
yeah,
Okay.
so. And before that, Sue for 1 year, and then Alan for 2 years before that. So it's gone back and forth, so.
This just, to me, it just takes pressure off the board, like, you know who's going to be chair, who's going to be vice chair. City staff can work with them during the summer, and we just fall into line in September and just keep going. In September, we're going to have a election, depending on what, then things change, depending on what's going, and then they go forward.
But normally it seems like, so in those September things, we've normally come with an agenda, and what the choosing though is just an item on the agenda, and it seems like we don't take the whole session to do that, so it seems like we are kind of set up to do stuff anyway, but because there's a current chair, I guess because there's been a current chair.
This is going to be my first,
Yeah.
year after it too, so.
Yeah, she
She
left.
left it summer, so we
Yeah,
came
we came
without,
back.
oh, got it,
Yes.
okay.
That's where it stems from. We don't have a fluent, and then not only that, but you get new people in, like, people will term out, and then I think maybe Travis came in September, right? Like, who took over Deanne? Travis?
I did.
So then he had to do voting that day, and he's voting on people he doesn't even know.
But I did know them. I looked at all the meetings like for over a year.
Correct, but I mean-
So I did know who I was voting for.
Correct, but you're going to get new people in that don't really know, or, you just get new
Maybe
people.
they'll look at the meetings too, so I'm probably not the only person who does that.
That's how I feel. Like I said, again, it's,
Neither here nor there?
yeah.
Well, what-
I'm not going to be here, so it doesn't matter, but my opinion is it's always good, that's the way that things have been done, and why not keep doing it? There's always problems occasionally. I won't say always. Occasionally there are problems. People get positions that aren't able to do it and that, but that's why there's 5 of us here.
Right.
So there's always some kind of backup. There's always some kind of help. I would, before changing it, would like to hear what the council's philosophy on it, even if they have one. If they don't have one, then amongst yourselves, you can decide that. And you can even decide that at that September meeting. It doesn't even have to be decided tonight. It could be decided, that could be the first agenda item at that meeting when you normally would elect the chair and vice chair. And if that's something that everybody wants to do at that point, everybody will know who's in place. Usually that first meeting back, there is something that got left over from the spring or early summer that is an agenda piece that needs to go in there. We have never had trouble filling the agenda with the first meetings. You all have a project going on with Ocotillo Park that you're going to need to update and talk about at that. So there will be plenty to do, but either way would work. But I don't know if you need to decide it right at this point.
Well, also, wouldn't we have to have the new person on board? I mean, I know that I voted, but like, they would be, but like, if you,
Well, I
Would be
think the
on
reason
board.
why it was brought up now is if we were to go this route, and again, I didn't bring it up to vote on it, I just brought it up as a thought process, but if we were to vote on it today, right, again, the chair and the vice chair would be able to work through the summer with staff. So that's one of the bonus things that I keep bringing back, right? And let's say the person, whoever it is on the rotation, let's say are in the hot seat, you know, and they can't do it, they have till summer to figure out, okay, like, I'm just going to skip. Like, I can't do what is required, what is the timing hours, it just, that's why. But again, this, we don't have to vote on it, it was just a thought
Just an
process.
idea that
Right.
we've never thought or talked about before.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
But I do think that Craig is the vice chair, so this summer, if there's something going on and Tom has left, that Craig can work on that, and you could always ask for help.
Tradition was always when the chair or whoever termed out or left, whoever the other leadership person was, ran that first meeting for the first 10 minutes till the election or the assignment, which if the case may be, would be made, and then just process on.
Right.
But I would like to hear what the council, if they have any pro or con thoughts. If they're for it, then it's not a problem, if they have no problem, so. But who knows, since it's,
But I would like to vote on it, though, because I think I might have a problem with it, so.
Well, if it goes to council and they vote for it, then it's just going to be blanketed.
Well, no, if they tell us we can do whatever we want to do, then we do what we want to do, right?
Well, I think if the council gave direction on it, their council's direction applies to all of us. I mean, if they decided that they wanted to change the process for all the commissions to go to a rotational, then that would be their decision to do that.
Do we need to get any input from the other commissions, or just kind of hijack it?
Well, I mean, you can't create a Brown Act violation by like polling other commissions and things like that,
What I'm
but.
saying is like that one thing is going to create a lot of things for a lot of people.
Well, if Commissioner Herrera brings it up at a council meeting, they can't act on it at that meeting. It would be something that would be non-agendized, that council would, if they were interested in it, they would have to go back to staff and ask them to, do research on it, make a presentation back to the city council. So there wouldn't be an action taken at whatever meeting that this was raised, because it would be something not on the agenda.
Yeah, I do appreciate the opportunity in general to look at processes and best practices and that kind of thing. So again, like I mentioned, if it goes before council and if we look at past examples of how other cities are doing it and pros and cons and all of that, and objectively, there is a way for us to improve our processes that I am supportive of, like just being kind of self-aware and trying to progress so that we can better serve the community. So whatever the outcome is, I would be open to exploring it, whether that reveals that our current process is actually more effective or trying something new. That would be, my recommendation.
that sounds good.
Chair Rudolph, just a quick note that we are
saw
at
that.
our hard stop, so just consensus to continue.
Do we have consent by the commission to continue with the meeting this evening?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
We haven't had to do it in such a long time. It's part of our process. We were talking about, we had some meetings, Christina could tell you, that went to 8:30, 8:45 once. So, and that's why I was so grateful to see that we are having a special meeting for the selection of the
Yeah.
Ocotillo.
That's going to be a process, trust
Yes.
me.
So I don't know what to do with this agenda item. Are we tabling it and processing it, or?
I think it was just informational
Okay.
at this point.
Great. Well, we thank you for bringing that. It's a very interesting idea, and it could work. So are there any public comments?
We have none, Chair.
Great, then let's move to staff report.
The only thing I'd like to just provide an update to the commission on is our application for the Art in Parks grant. So this is a grant opportunity that Commissioner Herrera made us aware of a while back, and then they finally opened the grant period on it. Commissioner Travis is part of that, kind of our working group, along with Commissioner Aaron Highland. Who am I missing? Just the two of you guys? Oh, and Crystal, I'm sorry. It's the DayQuil headache today. And so, and myself, Ryan, our communications manager and our grant analyst. And so we've been hightailing it the last, like all grant applications. It was a very short turnaround period, and then that short turnaround period gets constrained by staff activities and conferences and everything else. So we're about 95% there. Well, actually, larger than that. We're in kind of the final drafting stages of the grant. So what we are going to be doing is applying for a planning grant for activation at Esperanza Park. So with the brand new park that is being constructed, and that park has historically, is going to serve a very historically underserved neighborhood. We want to focus the focus of this grant to do some activation in that park. And so the kind of ideas talked about that we would, if we're successful in getting this planning grant, that we would vet out further would be, in one part, having a community-involved mural project. There's 3,000 feet of linear wall in this park along the backside of the houses. And while it's not exceptionally tall, it is a large beige canvas that we think, working with the community of, now that they have a name for the park and that the name is Hope, what would be imagery or other things that could augment and add an artistic expression in the park that identifies and celebrates the history of that area, both from the historical nature of the land and the Agua Caliente Bandicuya Indians that, were the first inhabitants of our area, and then just this decades and decades long history of multi-generational families that reside within the neighborhood. So that would be part of it. That process would involve a lot of community engagement. That has been I think the strength of the whole development of the park. And, throughout, from 2018 or so, when the first discussion started about the park planning, we would like to continue that level of engagement with discussions about what does Hope mean for this park now that it is named. And then culminating in an event or series of events at the park that really celebrates the cultural heritage of that neighborhood and area. I've already spoken to just some of part of the grant is having nonprofit community partners, and so just in this short time frame, we've reached out to our existing partnerships with the Scrap Gallery, with the Boys and Girls Club, with the Senior Center, also through the solicitation process for the Ocotillo Bench Project. I became aware of an organization called Coachella Arts, which works with young people to give them opportunities to create art through a variety of different mechanisms. And so they also have expressed a willingness to be part of this discussion and be part of at least an effort to support this. I found out that the person who's leading that was a former arts commissioner for the city of Palm Springs at one time. So a long history of arts engagement in the community. So we're finishing that up. The application is due this Friday, and so we're hopeful. My guess is it's going to be a very competitive grant program, because I think in total it was $8 million for 3 years, and it's open to all cities, parks, districts, counties. So, but I think we have a compelling story, and we get extra points because we are in the Inland Empire, which has been historically underserved, and so we'll keep our fingers crossed. If we are not successful in this first round of funding, then we'll have a full year to work on probably what I would probably shift from a planning grant to an implementation grant, but we'll have a full year then to really hone in and strengthen the development of another application. There'll be 3 rounds of funding for 3 years. So this will award, I think notices will be in September and like award in October. And then this will be for 8 months, would be the planning process. So I think it's been really great collaboration. Erin Hyland's organization also has committed to sign a letter for her. It's a reading and mentoring nonprofit that she's a part of that goes into the schools and communities and helps mentor kids and helping them learn to read, and also providing books and literature to young people. And so there was actually in our discussions a book about Esperanza that she had identified that might be a potential nice linkage with this project. But I think we're just really hopeful that we'll get consideration, because I think this would be a great way to kick off and really be able to have a great community celebration about this new park and really do something very special for that neighborhood. So that's kind of where we're at with it. I sent over my final edits today. We're giving it to Ryan so that he can do his more proper editorial look to make sure everything's consistent and addressing the focus of the grant. We intend that if selected, that we would bring in some third parties to help with the facilitation to make sure, because it is such a multilingual community with a predominantly Spanish-speaking neighborhood. We want to make sure that everything that is done from an engagement strategy is we're able to work within the neighborhood with the established leadership within the neighborhood, and with some of the PACE commissioners who have been really instrumental in some of the efforts on the park naming and just that engagement. So I think it'll be really cool if we get it. I thank Commissioner Herrera for giving us the heads up on that, and for Commissioners Travis and Mojica for being part of that planning group to try to get it off the ground and just in very short fashion get something together to submit. So that is my staff comments for today, other than to just say thank you to Chair Rudolph for his time on the commission. I mean, this would be officially your last formal meeting date, but we'll have you for another meeting to continue to get your input on the selection of artists. But I just wanted to say, as staff, it's been a real pleasure working with you. Just as I've been new to the community, you've been one of the first people that I met in this community that has really made me feel welcome. And I just thank you for your contributions to this commission.
Thank you very much, and feel better, please.
Snort, snort, sniffle.
Okay, we moved to staff comments now. Want to start with Commissioner Herrera, please?
Yes, I'm just going to say have a great summer and try to keep cool, and try to remember that the public library is a cooling place. So if you guys need to get out of the heat, the public library.
Commissioner Travis?
Yeah. I also want to thank Tom for being such a good sponsor for me on different projects, and I appreciate that very much. And luckily, I get to hang out with you at the food bank because we volunteer together there. So I get to still keep in touch with you. And the other thing is that, I really appreciate everyone's support for the art exhibit. I think it's like really turned out to everything I wanted to be and more, and I think it's just going to get better. I already have people asking me about next year, and I told them, well, January something will come out and be ready. Yeah. And so that's really good. And then also, what else? Not too much. Those kept me pretty busy this time. So, but I really, and people did sell their art, and that was really great. We had some really amazing artists there. And that's awesome. And if you wanted a little sneak preview, when you go to the library to cool off, you can look at their art. Yeah.
Are they still displaying arts from the artists there?
Yeah, what I did was Kristen asked each one for one piece, and they each put a piece up. And so then, especially the ones who are going to be showing in August too. So now that's a preview of it. Wonderful. And so that's kind of good. And then, it went really well. Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Commissioner Mojica.
Yes, a couple of things. So first, thank you for your leadership on the commission. I'm grateful to have your expertise and history on the commission to refer back to, especially in some meetings where we haven't had a lot of documentation about past decisions and discussions, and so it's helpful to have someone who's had that historical context. So thank you, and I hope that we continue to have your support and friendship. I also want to say I'm very excited to be at this stage with the Ocotillo Park Bench project. It's real. Can't wait to look through the art. I can't wait for the community to have that artwork in place in the fall. And so I'm just excited about the momentum behind the project. I know it's been long awaited, so looking forward to that. And then also it's been really exciting to see the potential of this grant for the new park. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, we get good news in the fall. And if that's the case, so many good things to come for that community or that segment of our community. And that's it. That's all on my end.
Yes, I would also like to thank Chair Rudolph for, it's been a very fun and eventful year. Your guidance, your leadership, as Commissioner Mojica said about your memory, was a very, very valuable thing. And I think this year I just want to thank all the commissioners. This has been such a great year. And how I know that is I have just been attending these range of events all up and down the valley. And when I say to people, I'm on the Public Arts Commission for Cathedral City, they go, yeah, I hear there's all sorts of cool stuff. Yeah, you guys are really, there's something going, yeah. And every time I turn around, I'm like, wow. It's like, so, the bench project, first it was the bridge project, which, most of us were part of that, and then this, and so I'm just so happy to see this. But when you go to, with Commissioner Travis, we went to the Arts Council in Palm Desert, and they have 650 members of that group. They put out this call to artists to all of their members. So now our project is on everybody's radar, and Open Studios was sent out to everybody, and everybody on Perez Road, and people. And it was interesting to me where people, when some artists were kind of going like, I don't think I want to be. But when you see the resumes and see what we're getting and who's applying, it's like, you wish you would have applied because this has become kind of a thing. So I'm so proud of our city. I'm so proud of what we're doing. I'm so proud of the message that we're sending with diversity of all the events and projects and everything. And to have the other cities recognize that and see that and acknowledge that. I'm like, yeah, we are on our way we're the cool kids. Come hang with the cool kids. We got cool, and there's opportunities for everybody. So, between that and the one thing I'd mentioned just briefly earlier, it was this amazing, it's called Dance Projects, and the ethnic diversity from Native American dance to Middle Eastern dance to Chinese. It was just so fascinating to see that range brought with younger people. And I'm already in touch with the executive director and artistic director. And then I went to another event recently where they were doing storytelling. And it was an amazing thing to hear these personal stories, pro actors. Anyway, so there's great opportunities that we could do, I still think, the city, and I think that we're going to continue to grow and expand that. So thank you again, all of you, for being here and part of this that's making that happen. So I'm just really happy to be a part of that. So thank y'all.
Well, thank you all very much for the kind words. Very much appreciated. I'm going to miss you all. It's been a pleasure. We got some things done. 6 years ago, we were not doing much. And if anything that I would like to thank anybody for, first of all, Craig, thank you for being there with me all this year. And thank you, Ann and Charlie, for making the one thing we've been asking for 6 years happen finally, and that is the new funding venues. We have been begging for that forever, as long as I've been around. So you all made it happen. Nobody made it happen before. You all did, and the whole commission and the city thanks you for that, because it's going to give us so many new opportunities to be able to live our moniker of Cathedral City where art lives. So I thank you all very much. We will see you all 2 weeks from tonight on the 25th to decide the art pieces, but at this point I want to conclude the regular meeting this evening. Thank you all very much.